I really want to thank all of our organizations and all of our candidates to join us tonight. Tonight is a really special night for entire Houston, actually for entire state of Texas, because earlier voting is starting on 13 and will run through October 30th. And election day is November 3rd, Tuesday. So that's a big day for our whole country and for Texas. And so tonight we're joining by this bright and brilliant candidates who are the role models and leaders for our community. It's also a really success for our whole community. That's a moment worth celebration. And so tonight we're also joined by more than 10 Asian American organizations who actually are part of this event and bring our attendees together and help to support all of our candidates that are coming to run in this November election. So tonight we'll be also joined by the current elected AAPI Asian American elected officials who will also speak about how their experience have changed our entire community now has a voice for ourselves. So again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and we're gonna get the program start. My name is Helen Shi. I'm a board member for United Chinese American. It's a national civic organization for representing Chinese American. And so we're also joining tonight by other organizations who are part of the this great coalition for our community and for the Asian American community in Houston. So I will introduce you the leader from those organizations, and we're going to run through very quickly the alphabetic orders of this organization. And we will start by APAPA-Houston, and the leader is Q Amam. Q, if you can speak a few words about your organization and why this election is so important for you.
Thank you so much, Helen. Hopefully you all can hear me. Good evening, everyone. It is certainly a privilege to be here and to represent APAPA. APAPA stands for Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs. You know, at the end of the day, Helen and everyone else, our job, our responsibility is to try our level best to inspire, engage, and probably the most important, empower the API community. When it comes to our ability to be active at the grassroots level, our ability to engage at the local, county, state, and all the way to the national level. So you can imagine our delight tonight when we see a whole full page of API candidates that have stepped up and basically sacrificed their time and resources to put their case in front of the people for the election. Your question about how important this election is important from every aspect. And when I talk to people, I tell them all the way from the top of the ballot to the bottom, something is going on that is going to impact us as an individual, as a family, as a parent, our children, our tax dollars, our healthcare. And I believe that API community, all the way from the candidates who are and elected officials who will be here tonight, to people like ourselves who are trying our level best for that increased engagement will make a difference. Thank you for letting APAPA be a part of this, and I'm looking forward to a great evening.
Thank you so much, Q. Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And our next organization is the Asian Chamber of Commerce, and Ms. Rabin Yu is going to speak for that organization. Ms. Bin? Hello?
Ben, you're on mute, Ben.
Are you on mute?
Sorry, guys. Sorry, Helen. And nice to meet everyone here. And congratulations to all the AAPI candidates. And is from Asian Chamber Commerce. We're very honored and be happy to be here to support. I just want to share the little story that talking about one thing is the lack of Asian business voice among the leaders. That's what I've been in this position for 2 years. I see that happening. And back to the January, February, when the the Chinatown business got hit by the rumor at that time that COVID is not in US yet. And the business stopped. And we're very fortunate to have Mr. Jin Wu, our state representative, stepping up and encourage people to eat. And Mayor Turner also on the Chinatown to eat as well. However, I want to mention from the business economic standpoint, we really hardly received any support because we don't have much voice in establishing policies, in developing the incentives and to helping the Asian business communities. I want to share a short list we sent to the city in the beginning of this year. I want to say is none of them happened yet. And we just name a few. We want to inspire more Asian American to serve on the different city board and the commissions, especially in the property owned and the business owners, and also the management district and tax incentive reinvestment zones. And none of that happened yet. We want to appoint a member to serve on the Mayor's Council on Asian Pacific Policy. None of that happened yet. And also we want to establish the economic development office in some major Asian countries and be a partnership with the city of Houston. And so all those are just a name a few examples. We want to establish the Asian business voice and to help Asian business owners in Houston. But I just feel we are lacked of the voice. So I want to hope that our AAPI candidates and once you selected, and definitely fight for us. Thank you, Helen.
Okay, thank you so much, Bin. That's a great voice to hear. Our next speaker will come from our Bangladeshi family, and Mr. Nishankang will speak for his organization. Mr. Nishan. And please remember to unmute yourself because sometimes when we speak and people are not hearing you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to start with a thanks to host, which is Helen, and all other participants are friends mostly. But I do want to mention my special thanks to a friend, big brother, mentor, Gordon Kwan. Without Gordon, we could not have come thus far. We have came long way. Another individual, she was also inspiring factors in the Asian American politics in Houston, Dr. Martha Wang. When you hear from Gordon and Martha Wang, you feel like going to work right then. And I did exactly the same. I could not vote for a long time, but I did not wait one day after I got my power, the US citizenship. And my witness is Gordon Kwan himself. So having said that, I am so happy to see so many of our Asian American candidates are running, particularly running for the congressional seats in the state of Texas. Definitely, we will have Asian representation in the coming Congress. That is for sure. For example, we have Seema running for Congressional District 2, and she is going to be challenging the incumbent. There is a good possibility she is running, and she's an Iranian American. We have Lulu Sekhali in District 3. She's a Lebanese American running for unseating the incumbent. We have our own, who is I am going to vote for. It's Sri Kulkarni. Sri Kulkarni has been able to unite our District 22 like no one ever did. Next comes Zina Ortiz running for 23. Congressional District 23, she is a Filipino American. Zina and Sri had a similar situation. They both were serving the government, but they could not tolerate the way those people are under Trump administration. So she and Sri at the same time decided to leave government and run for, they did not want to run for office. They came to help Beto. We all know this story. Then Beto asked both of them to run. So the next candidate, she is from my own country of origin, Bangladesh. Her name is Donna Imam. This seat was only 2.9 difference of vote in the 2018 cycle. Their voter participation is 230 times. That's what I was told. And I did some research also. If the way I expect Texas will turn, it will flip blue. That is the whole point. So keep an eye on these states on election night in the state of Texas. If you see that our candidates are winning, it means Texas will flip. And I will be the happiest one to vote another time for Joe Biden as a presidential elector. So I want to say that our engagement, our presence is going to be make us sit on the table. We'll be there, certainly in the Washington to make a difference. And these candidates, great candidates, will truly represent their constituents in the state of Texas. So stay engaged and let's focus on vote, 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 like Joe Biden say. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Really honored to have you here as one of the warrior and the senior for our community. And next, we're gonna move to that's the Vietnamese community, BPSOS, and Mr. Jeanette Diep. She is cannot join us tonight, so we're gonna move to EmGage, and that will be Amatullah, if you can speak for your organization quickly.
Yes, hi, it's so great to be here. My name is Amatullah. I'm the Texas Civic Engagement Director for EmGage. And this year we are mobilizing 1 million Muslim voters, which has never been done in history. And it's so exciting and it makes our work so much easier when we have such an amazing slate of Asian American candidates, because, you know, our voters have never seen this kind of representation before and they are so motivated. And we feel really optimistic and we're so glad. Everyone watching, you know, please help these candidates get to office and in the final stretch. We want to make sure that we make the biggest bang with Asian American turnout. So thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much to be with us tonight. And thank you for all of the great work you do in the Muslim community. Next, we're going to move to Houston 8020. And Mr. Salahuddin, if you're here, if you can speak about your organization's effort.
Good evening. This is, my name is Mohammed Salahuddin Imaldin. I am the president of Houston 8020 Asian American PAC. We are the largest and the oldest Asian American PAC in town. We endorse candidates, and recently we just had the endorsement interviews and we released our list of endorsed candidates. It is imperative for everyone to please go out and vote. This is a election where if no other time in history your vote mattered, this is one time it will matter. So please go out and vote, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all the great work you do, and also endorsement effort. It's a lot of work, I know, and thank you so much for that. And next, we're going to move to the Korean community we have, Mr. Honja.
Hi. Hi, my name is Hyunja Norman. I am with the Korean American Voters League. I'm so glad to be part of a big Asian American movement. It is not necessary to say why it is so important, because everybody knows this, because our life depends on this election. We are going to do Korean American early voting days in Harris County and first time in Porter Bend County to help our candidate. So we are committed, we ensure to help our seniors to complete their vote by mail and then send it back to the county correctly. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hongzha. I know you have been working so hard for all of us. And next we move to OCA-Houston, Mr. Chang, HC.
Thanks, Helen. I'll pass. I know you guys didn't get on to hear me talk, so I'll pass the time to our great candidates. I would just encourage everybody to stay engaged, to remember to vote, to have the best way to have our community's voice heard is by voting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's a short and sweet. And thank you so much for all the work you do in OCA. And next we move to Pakistan, our Pakistani family, and that's Ms. Sonia. If you can speak a few words about your organization and the effort you're taking.
Thank you so much. Hello and good evening, everyone. I am Sonia Rash. I want to say thank you for this opportunity to tell you a little bit about the Pakistan American Business and Professional Association. This organization is really about encouraging all of our Asian American community to come out and network with other professionals. I won't take up too much time either. I know that this is a hard race. I wish all of our candidates good luck. It definitely is time for a change, and I'm happy to see that there are so many Asian candidates out here now, more than I think I've ever seen. And so I do wish them good luck. And I also ask everybody here, if you know other people, to also get involved, not just to come and vote, but if they have hours and time, they can definitely help our candidates by volunteering. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Sonia. That's very sweet of you to join us tonight. And next, we're going to move to Abdul Khan. Mr. Khan, are you online? I know you're driving. So another Pakistani organization who has been supporting us. Hi, Mr. Khan. He's probably driving. So if he has time, we'll let him come in to speak. My name is Helen Shi. I'm representing United Chinese Americans. It's called UCA. It's a national civic organization for Chinese American. And we've been facing unprecedented challenge in this time because the US-China conflict, and some of those questions will be asked by our community members when a candidate start to speak. And with that, we also have two representatives coming from Harris County Clerk Office, Ms. Duhan Wen and also Joanne Ray. And they will speak at the end of the session to answer all of your questions about voting and mailing ballot and all of the other issues we may have. So with that, let's move on to our next part of this talk, which will be everyone anticipated who will be our candidates. So with our session tonight, we will be moving to our congressional candidate first.
Well, I think we have our elected officials were going to say a word, weren't they?
Oh, yes, that's right. Our elected, thank you for reminding me about that. So our elected officials would be KP George and also Alice Chen, who actually were elected in the last cycle in 2018 election. So it's County Judge KP George is here. We'll have him speak. 1 minute.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. It is absolutely an honor and privilege to be here, and thank you for all the good work. And it's good to see that there is so many organizations coming together. When we just say Asia, it is maybe half of the world, and so there are so many cultures, so many wonderful people look even different, and that is, and we all are here in the United States. That's the beauty actually of our region, especially Fort Bend County, Greater Houston area, and I'm very honored and privileged to serve as the chief executive of our county, Fort Bend County. I am very privileged because it happened because people like you did all this legwork, and I always say that I know that there are so many other people maybe more qualified than me out there, and they could have been in this position, but we worked together as a community. And also I see, unfortunately, in some parts of our communities, I see a lot of division these days. I'm very disappointed. Be united, we are going to add a lot of value. And I tell you this, why it is important. to run for office and possibly win the election and do the best and show our community what we can do, because you are guiding, you are leading our young generation. And then one thing I remember last 2018, November 6th evening, when the return came back, I was winning, and then two teenagers came to me, and they're coming from South Asian background. They came to me and said, Mr. George, I'm very excited tonight because we feel like, I could do the same thing now. And I always, many times it was not, as you all know, our Honorable Gordon Kwan, and you all know that running for office is not an easy thing. And, and it takes a lot of time. Sometimes you look back, Alice Chen, absolutely, Alice, when you look back, you don't see anybody. I mean, sometimes you think why you're running, what you're doing here. But, and when these kids came and told me, you inspired me tonight, I really wanted to cry. Literally, I tell you, I really wanted to cry, because I thought many times what I'm doing here, I could go and have a comfortable life, what I'm doing here. And that's the value, because that's something you cannot put a price tag on. And you're showing it to your children, hey, this is how you lead. And when a small thing happens, a small setback happen, you cannot quit. And that is, I ran 3 times before I went. And so showing that, and people always talk to me about that, oh, you never give up. And I'm like, why should I give up? What kind of message I'm going to give it to my young people if I do give up? No. And so I wanted to commend, I know there's a lot of people here, personal friends and everybody. Thank you for your contribution. And also putting the name in the ring. And, that is a big thing. And, I know that especially you're challenging, and you're spending the money you don't have, talking to people who don't believe in you. And, then, people looking at you with sympathy and why you're wasting your time and things of that nature. But the final laugh, as long as you believe in yourself, the final laugh is yours. And today there is a lot of people come to my office today. Actually, we had a leadership program. Young people came, and we were doing some leadership education among our young people. And they all are so excited to see somebody like me in that office, because they can relate to me. And that is the value each and every one of you is going to add. More than 22% of Fort Bend County come from Asian background. And that is actually getting close to 1/4 of Fort Bend County come from Asian background together. And we can accomplish a lot of wonderful thing. And I know that we are, leading, doing all this stuff. We are doing because we are trying to make a better Houston, a better Fort Bend County, a better Texas, and a better country, for not just for us, our children, and also the generations to come. And thank you for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, KP George, County Judge. So we know you have done so much for our community, and this is such a challenging time, right? When you were elected back in 2018, we have 15 Asian American candidates running, and 11 of them got elected, and it's a really a wave for us, and really a point of celebration for us again. So with that, we'll move to Alice Chen. If you can speak very quickly, a few words about as an AAPI elected official, so we can move to our candidates.
Thank you, Helen. My name is Alice Chen. I'm the Stafford City Council member. I won the election last year. I want to thank you, Gordon Kwan. He is the one who inspired me to run. And also Congressman Al Green, and also all of you. I've been involved in the community, Asian community, for more than 40 years. And last year, when there's open seats, everybody told me, Alice, go for it. It's not easy, but I understand we have a chance to serve our community. It's so critical. And election present voters. It's with important choices, whether it is a local level that will impact our communities, or a national level, which will change direction of our country. especially this year, 2020 election is not the USA election, it's the whole world's watching. This election gonna impact the whole world. So all of us need to think about how we're gonna work together. Only way is united. We all united. We put our power with voting right together and elect the people can speak for all of us. And I think we can have a better tomorrow. I want to thank you, all of you. Helen, Dr. Pai, Gordon Kwan, Rojin, Cecil Fong, and all the community leaders, and also Greater Houston AAPI organization. I'm humbled to serve our Stafford citizen, but I'm going to do more for the community. And thank you for this opportunity for me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alice Chen. Yeah, I know you worked so hard for our community and our city. So with that, we're going to move to the candidates. Our first two candidates are the congressional level. They're running on for Congress. So that will be Seema and Sri. And so our moderator, Mr. Cecil Fong, will take questions from audience. So please submit your question to Q&A section. If you have questions for our candidates, that's Q&A, and our moderator will pick up the questions. And we have for each candidate about 7 to 8 minutes for their self-statement and 2 to 3 minutes for their Q&A. So with that, Cecil, would you please introduce our candidates?
Sure, thank you, Helen. This is Cecil Fong. I'm honored to moderate for the next two candidates coming up. Please go ahead and send me your questions in the chat room if you have any. We'll try to take them as they come. They have about 7 or 8 minutes for each candidate. The first one up is Seema Lajavadian, and she's a Democratic candidate for District 2. And Seema, will you take a couple of minutes to introduce yourself? And then we'll take a few questions. And then at the end, I'll give you a minute to close.
Absolutely. I am so honored to be here. It's just so amazing to see such incredible API candidate. I'm proud to be part of this community. I'm proud to be endorsed by all the organizations that are on here. So my name is Seema Lajavadian, and I'm running for Congress in District 2 to be the first woman to represent this district, to be the first Iranian American in Congress. And I'm running to recover the health of our economy, the health of our families, and the health of this beautiful American dream. Public service runs in my family. My grandmother was one of the first women in Congress in Iran and fought for the women's right to vote. And I want to follow in her footsteps. I'm running against Trump's favorite Texan, Dan Crenshaw, somebody who broke his promise to lower prescription drug prices, who has been trying to gut our healthcare in the middle of this pandemic, and who has been spreading lies and disinformation about the pandemic while hundreds of doctors have asked him to stop doing that. And just 2 weeks ago, he voted against House Resolution 908, which is a bipartisan bill, which basically denounces anti-Asian discrimination that has been happening due to COVID. So, you know, he's somebody who forgot if their constituents came to DC and doesn't care anymore. And he is completely aligned with Trump in wanting to be very divisive and spewing hatred and division in our communities. It may look like a tough battle, but I have been defying the odds all of my life as a breast cancer survivor, as an immigrant, and as a woman. And I really want to make sure that I'm here for the immigrant struggling to overcome all the prejudices, shatter all the barriers, and defy all the expectations. And I'm here for all of our children yearning to be seen, heard, and valued. And I'm here because I want to make sure that our Asian communities are all getting the representation that they need. This district lost by 3 points with Beto. By 1 point, which is 3,000 votes. We have 8% of our district that is Asian American. Our vote can change and flip this district. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands how important this election is. We are living in a nation that we have hundreds of thousands who have died from a pandemic. Millions have lost their jobs. There are very serious questions that are here. We are fighting for the soul of this nation. So your votes matter. We can flip my district and we can flip Texas with it.
Thank you, Seema. The first question is, what do you think are the effects of the pandemic in your district, and what do you think you can do as a congresswoman to restore the economy and bring back jobs, especially considering, the significant loss of oil and gas jobs, coming up?
Look, the pandemic has affected every facets of life, and it's the number one thing that is on everybody's mind. We have lost 60,000 people in Texas. Millions of people have lost their jobs. And a lot of this is because we've had leadership who has been putting out really bad disinformation, misinformation, and I've had abysmal response to this. My opponent has been saying from day one that we don't need masks, and for the past 7 months has been perpetuating that misinformation, holding in-person events, and really being one of the reasons that we are where we are right now. So it's very important that our leadership understands that we have to put out the correct information. We need testing, we need money coming into the district, and we have to really put the pandemic under control, because before we can do anything, we cannot have a healthy economy without healthy people. And in a district where so many people already in Texas, we are the least covered state in the nation as far as healthcare. Living in a pandemic, we were 1 in 5 before the pandemic. We are 1 in 3 after the pandemic of people that are not covered. And this coronavirus is also going to be a pre-existing condition. So we have to make sure that we address the healthcare issue in Congress, make sure that we open up the enrollment for ACA for everybody who has lost their job, and really understand that all these people, including Crenshaw and our president, who are trying to gut healthcare in the middle of this pandemic, it is just unconscionable. And then we can address, the economy and all that. Sadly, the HEROES Act, nothing was done about it the past week. There was money coming in, to help our restaurants that are hurting, help our schools that are opening, make sure that we have money coming, a new stimulus check coming in, money helping all, unemployment, a new unemployment stimulus going on, and really help with our small businesses. And that was voted against by my opponent, Dan Crenshaw. And that's what we need to work for.
Thank you. As an Asian American, you're aware that there have been an increase of anti-Asian incidents because of the pandemic. What do you think you can do potentially in Congress, and maybe more broadly, what can we do to kind of bring people together to work together instead of polarizing the way it is now?
I mean, sadly, we've been living in an atmosphere of hatred and xenophobia. Even before this pandemic, we had the mosque that was burnt down back in 2000, with President Trump's rhetoric of hatred and division. There's a lot of that has been going on, but with COVID, it has exacerbated. And we just have to make sure that we put out the correct information, and we are very strong on any kind of bigotry and racism going on. There is an act called the No Hate Act that really pushes for reporting, that you make sure that there is accurate hate crime reporting, that people are not afraid to come forward. So that's something that I would push for. And of course, this bill, House Resolution 908 that Dan Crenshaw voted against, basically saying that, you have to make sure that there is no discrimination against Asians just because of our president calling it, a Chinese virus or whatever. We've had a lot of violence towards the Asian community, business and physical, and that's something that has to be condemned. And in Congress, I will make sure that this kind of a conversation is gone. And I want to make sure that our communities also feel safe enough to come forward and speak about it, because you have somebody that cares and will listen to you. That's really the number one thing, that the communities come together. This is not something that is acceptable at all. And that's something I'm going to fight for.
Okay. We have time for maybe one more question. So I'll ask from the audience. Would you support, there's a couple of questions here actually. Would you support another round of stimulus? If so, how much? And then the other question is more broad. Can you kind of tell us about your position on healthcare, Muslim ban, and immigration.
That's a lot of questions.
That's a lot of questions. So, should be concise.
Okay, so yes, absolutely. I'm for the stimulus. We had money coming in. There's too many people hurting. We need money coming in, a stimulus check coming in. We need unemployment extension. We have to make sure that we protect our small businesses. 1 out of 6 of our small businesses have already gone. Our restaurants are hurting, or the airlines are hurting. So absolutely, we have to push for another stimulus. As far as how much, that's up to discussion as to what it is that we need, but we need direct help right away that comes now. As far as, I guess the second question was healthcare.
Healthcare, immigration, Muslim ban.
Look, any kind of ban is just absolutely not acceptable. I'm an immigrant who came here as a child because of the chaos of a revolution. We are the beacon of hope. So the first thing that, and I know the vice president has said that the first thing he's going to do on day 1 is get rid of the Muslim ban, and I will be right there supporting him doing that. As far as healthcare, I'm a cancer survivor. I understand the value of what it means to have high quality, affordable healthcare. This is why I'm still alive and I'm here. So on my #1 agenda, healthcare is a universal right. I will make sure that everybody who has their private insurance can keep it. We need to make the ACA better. We have to, subsidize the premiums. We have to open up enrollment in the middle of the pandemic so everybody who has lost their jobs have access to it. I would open a public option for Medicare. We have to negotiate down prescription drug prices. My opponent campaigned on bringing down prescription drug prices, went to DC, got a bunch of pharma money, and voted against a bipartisan bill and scrubbed it off of his website. 90,000 people a year die because they don't have access to prescription drugs. And I'm trying to see what else. There was one more question, and I'm going to get to that.
No, I think you covered it. Why don't you just go ahead and take a minute to wrap up?
Of course, the only thing I wanted to say on the question of what else we could do, I would really hold our tech companies liable and make sure that we don't have hate crime or any kind of news like that. That's very important because that's really what happens. So we have to make sure that our tech companies are aware of this kind of a rhetoric going on social media platforms. And really, I am running because we need leaders who will make diversity the expectation, not the exception. We need leaders who will bring us together and not tear us apart. This has been what I've been doing all of my life. And we need leaders who fight for our healthcare, our economy, our American dream. And that's what I intend to do as your Congresswoman. I'm so proud to be part of the AAPI community. I cannot emphasize, please go vote. Take everybody to go vote. Grab 10 friends and go vote. Encourage anybody who has their vote by mail to mail it ASAP. And everybody else who can, early voting starts next week, October 13th. This is the most important election of our lifetime. I cannot wait to serve with Kamala Harris. I went to law school with her. We graduated at the same time. So this is very important. Everybody go vote. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Seema. And okay, we'll move on to the next next candidate, congressional candidate, and that's Sri Kulkarnan. He's a candidate for U.S. Congress District 22 in Fort Bend. And I think I see Sri there. Sri, would you go ahead and take a couple of minutes to introduce yourself, and I will handle a few questions, and we'll give you a minute at the end to wrap up, similar to Seema.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you to everybody on this call. I see so many friends, people who have helped us along the way in this campaign, this entire way through, and especially to people who have broken barriers to lead that way for us. People like Gordon Kwan, Alice Chen, who I block walked with, and I'm so proud to see her in office, and all the other candidates here, including the ones who have helped me, such as Seema, such as Kathy. I'm so honored to be here with you all here today, because when I was growing up, there weren't these faces. There weren't people to look up to who are Asian Americans as a city council member, as a member of Congress, or maybe even a vice president. I grew up the son of an Indian immigrant. We started out life in a 2-bedroom apartment with 9 people in it. And the things that we valued were the same things that our community values: education. I literally bussed across town 15 miles to get better education growing up. We value science, and we know that the kind of flooding that we would experience year after year here, where we lost our car, my brother and sister almost lost our lives. We know that climate change is not a Chinese hoax, as our president says, but it's actual science, and there's evidence behind it. I experienced gun violence. I witnessed it personally with my father and my mother, where I had to hit the ground because people opened fire right in front of us. And we know that we want our children to be able to go to school without the stress of worrying about violence erupting. And of course, we believe in health. So many of the people from our community are on the front lines dealing with coronavirus. But even when I was a teenager, when I was 18 years old and my father got sick with cancer, I came home to help take care of him with my family. I did his IVs and his physical therapy, took him back and forth to MD Anderson. And when he passed away when I was 19 years old, my family was on the point of bankruptcy. We were taking donations just to stay afloat. And I don't think that any family should have to go through that, what we went through at that time. In my case, I worked my way through school, helped raise my younger siblings, went on to Harvard for my graduate school. I served in the US Senate as a foreign policy and defense advisor, but most of my career was overseas in places like Taiwan, Iraq, Israel, Russia. And I would have been serving overseas right now in India, if not for what I've seen happen in this country. The attacks on different ethnic communities, whether it's the African American, the Latino, the Muslim community, the Chinese community, all of us right now, we deserve a country that stands up for our values, and we deserve a government that represents all of us. And after the Charlottesville Nazi rally, I decided I could not continue to serve in this government. The most patriotic thing to do when your values are being threatened is to fight for them. So I resigned, I came back home. And what I found is that we have a large and a vibrant growing community here. The Asian American population is the fastest growing population in the state of Texas. And we have the largest population, almost 100,000 Asian American voters here in District 22. But what I was told was, don't bother with the Asian community because they don't vote. And the easiest way to lose an election is to talk to people who don't vote. And we said the easiest way to never get change is to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I speak 6 languages from my time overseas. We recruited people from every one of the major communities. So we are now campaigning in Chinese, in Vietnamese, in Tagalog, in Hindi, in Urdu, in Gujarati, in Malayalam, and Bengali. We're campaigning in 27 different languages right now. No campaign in Texas or American history has ever done that, because we are striving to be the most inclusive campaign ever. That is the answer, the antidote to all of this bigotry and this hatred that we've been talking about, the threats to an Asian family that got attacked in Midland, or the threats to the Indian or the Chinese community in Dallas that we've seen recently, the kind of things that are stoked by a president who does not respond to science, but instead responds to xenophobia, trying to blame certain communities, saying things like Kung Flu virus or China virus in order to blame others, to find a scapegoat for our problems. The truth is we need to come together to solve our problems. We are facing the biggest challenge ever in our lives right now. And the only way we're going to do it is by uniting, not dividing. So in our campaign, by bringing more people out, we got almost 30,000 new people to come out who hadn't voted for president in 2018. We almost flipped this district. And then since then, we have registered 63,000 new people in our district alone. Our community, the Asian community, we can be the margin of victory, not just for District 22, but for the entire state of Texas, which would change the course of history in the United States, because this is our moment. We need to stand up for the health of our families. We need to stand up for education for all those children who can't go to school because we have not have a science-based strategy. And we need to stand up for our economy, for all the small business owners who've gone out of business this year because we don't have proper testing. We don't have proper PPE. We have people like my opponent who says that wearing a mask is communist and un-American. No, wearing a mask is the most patriotic thing to do. It means that we care about our community. We care about our fellow citizens. And if we believe in science, if we believe that every community has an equal voice, should have a seat at the table in democracy, and if we believe in our democratic institutions, like last year when our immigrants were being threatened, 100,000 people in Texas were threatened with being taken off the voting roll simply because they weren't citizens 20 years ago, which is not a rule or a law. If we believe that we have the right to vote and it should not be taken away, whether it's the right to vote by mail, our voting hours, our voting locations, or even the machines in the post office, which are being dismantled right now to prevent us from voting, then my friends, we must fight for that right. We must fight for our democracy. We must fight for the future for our children, for our education, for our small businesses, our economy, and we must fight for our very lives right now because everything depends on us, and we have the power to change this in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Sheree. First question, you've been criticized for being a extreme liberal, and then for advocating for Medicare for all. Would you kind of elaborate on what your actual position is on this and educate us?
Absolutely. So this is an example of the kind of political attacks that you get. So our position is actually that we should support the ACA. We should expand the ACA, that people with private insurance should be able to keep their insurance, but it is in direct contrast to our opponent who supports taking away the ACA. There's a lawsuit right now that would strike down the ACA. It's going to be heard the week after the election. And what that means is that millions of people will lose their health care. People who have pre-existing conditions like heart disease, like diabetes, like coronavirus, where we have the second most number of cases in the entire country here in Texas. All of those people who have pre-existing conditions. And I am glad that our opponent has brought up healthcare because our opponent has not talked about healthcare for the last 3 years. It's the #1 issue that we have talked about. It's the reason why we are endorsed not only by the American Hospital Association, by Physicians Association, by American Nurses Association, because we believe healthcare is the #1 priority, and we are going to stand up for the health of our families.
Okay, good. Another issue that's important on the Asian Americans, a lot of Asian Americans own small businesses, as you know, and then they are severely hurt because of the pandemic. If you are elected, what would you do to help the small businesses and the immigrants communities to get back on their feet?
Sure, absolutely. And so the first thing is we have to have rapid testing. In addition to PPE and wearing masks, if we have testing that comes back in 7 to 10 days, you don't know if you're infected and you don't know if you're able to go back to work. So the kind of testing we have in hospitals, we need it everywhere that comes back in a few hours. But once we get past the pandemic, we need to also make sure we have targeted relief to those industries and those sectors that have hit the hardest, such as hospitality. We are hotel and motel owners in our community, such as food service. We own restaurants in our community. And we also need to make sure that those small businesses, especially those sole proprietorships that need that help the most, that have had to go through so much red tape. I talk to banks every day who say, for these people who've gotten loans of $150,000 for their sole proprietorship, they don't need all the red tape. They need loan forgiveness now. And then on top of that, once we get past the pandemic, we need to provide targeted relief loans as well as startup tax credits so that people can scale up and we can get back to normal again, because that's what we've all been waiting for.
Okay, good. And in the, as you're aware, of course, there have been an increase of, anti-Asian incidents because of the pandemic. And what would you do as a congressman to see if we could bring all the factions together to work together instead of the polarizing faction that we are now as a country?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, this attitude of trying to blame a scapegoat, and it doesn't matter whether it's the Asian community or the Latino community or the African-American community, I think this is a threat to all of us, and we need to stand together. And so first, that means calling it out, recognizing that these hate crimes are increasing. It means actually reaching out and including other communities, not just talking to them, but listening to them. That's why we're campaigning in 27 different languages. That's why we're doing outreach to all of these faith communities. And it means actually getting representation, because there are two parties here, but the two parties in Texas do not have equal representation. If you look at the Democratic Party here, it looks like this Zoom right here. It looks like our communities. It looks like the beautiful diversity of Texas 22 and the state of Texas. On the other side, it does not. They do not give us a seat at the table. For example, my opponent, half of our county is African-American, Hispanic, or South Asian. He has zero African-Americans, 0 Hispanics, 0 South Asians on his leadership team in the sheriff's office. And that's going to change when I'm representing this district, because we are going to make sure that we have people from every community represented, because every community deserves a voice. And that's how we push back this wave of hatred, anger, and division that is spreading across this country, not with more anger, but with more inclusion.
Thank you very much. Want to just take a minute to give us your closing remarks.
So we know that this is the most important election of our lifetimes. We are facing the pandemic of 1918. We are facing the unemployment levels of the 1930s, and we are facing the struggle for racial equality of the 1960s all at the same time. But we also know that our community can be the difference. We are the fastest growing community here. In Texas 22, we have the largest Asian American population. In Texas, we are 1/5 of the population here. We can be that margin that will change history, but only if we show up and vote. And if you all out there are already planning to vote, make sure you bring other people with you. Come and join us. Go to our website at www.sri2020.com, SRI2020.com/action. You can join one of our phone banks. Every single day we are campaigning in any one of those 27 languages. We are going to have early voting days. I see Hyunja there. We are going to have an early Korean American voting day, an early Chinese American voting day, Pakistani, Indian, Bangladeshi. For all of our communities, we want to make sure that the entire community feels safe, that they can come out and vote, and they feel proud to come out and vote, because it is our community that is not going to sit on the margins anymore, but we will be the margin of victory. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you all. Thank you. Bye-bye. 再见.
Thank you so much for our candidates. And I know we all know this is the last weekend before the earlier voting start on Tuesday. So it's wonderful to have them here speak to us. Next, we're going to move on to statewide judiciary candidates. And I want to invite Gordon Kwong to be the moderator and also ask questions to Kathy and also Tina.
Great, welcome. Thanks everybody for being here this evening. We have two very outstanding women attorneys who are seeking statewide office, the Supreme Court of Texas and the Court of Criminal Appeals. We're going to start with Kathy Chang. So Kathy, are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you doing, everyone?
Hey, Kathy. So Kathy, let's spend a few minutes telling people about yourself, and then I have a few questions for you.
Sure. I'm Kathy Chang, the Democratic nominee for Texas Supreme Court Place 6. It's a statewide position, so that Place 6 has nothing to do with district or anything. It's the entire state. It is only the seat number 6 on the Texas Supreme Court because it has 9 seats on the Supreme Court. Texas Supreme Court is the highest civil court in the state of Texas, and I'm running for that position because there's a lack of diversity, not just the Asian American diversity, but a lack of diversity of the vision. Because like I said, that is the highest court that interprets law for all Texans. We need to have representation up on the Texas Supreme Court to have the vision to be able to see the gray areas of the law that exists in certain areas of law that is not black or white. Also, on top of that, while we are understanding that we need to have participation in the congressional, like Shree's position, we need to make sure we have positions in Texas Supreme Court, because we need to have seat at the table for all legislative, congressional, executive positions. Until then, we will not be able to have a say-so on what's going on in the government. So I believe that it's crucial as Asian Americans that we participate in this crucial election, not just for the presidential race, but just for the existence of our being as Asian Americans in the state of Texas.
Thank you. And Kathy, of course, set history by being the first Asian candidate to run statewide in the last election cycle. Now, let me just mention to all our viewers that in a judicial race, a candidate cannot state an opinion about any case ahead of time. They only can state that they'll be fair. So I can't ask her about how would you vote on this or that, because that's improper. But let me ask you, you say you want to cause change. So what change are you looking to bring? You mentioned there are 9 judges on the Supreme Court, and how do you change that?
Okay, so in law, you have to look at the very, you have diverse individuals in there doing the critical, in-depth thinking, and then having the debate, the required debate before you make a decision. That is what's significant. Right now, with 9 Republicans, you don't have that. At the same time, with 9 Republicans in there, who 7 out of 9 Republicans have been appointed at one point by the prior governor or the current governor, they're beholden to their political leaders who gave them the position. So for example, my opponent She was voted out in 2018 by the constituents that she served, along with another candidate, Justice Triana's opponent. Both of them were both voted out in 2018 by the constituents. And then, lo and behold, they make that little phone call, nepotism comes in, and they get promoted to the Supreme Court. While on the Democratic side, we will.
Okay, we kind of froze a little bit there. Hopefully we'll get Kathy back in just a second here. One of the things about Kathy, last time she went to all 254 counties in Texas, which is amazing, as you can imagine how big the state is, but she was quite a campaigner. Yes, I can hear you now. Okay. Can you?
Sorry, I am on my way back to Houston, still on the road. But right now what we're looking at is a lack of vision and diversity for that critical thinking that we need. When we have justices that's being appointed over and over, and because of the straight ticket button in the past, re-elected, where the constituents didn't even know that justices were elected as opposed to being appointed, that is a problem. In the state of Texas right now, the Supreme Court is known to be corporate friendly and to the stakeholders. Unless you're one of those rich, wealthy folks who could hire one of the top 9 firms to represent you, you have less than 10% chance of winning. Well, if you're rich enough to hire one of those 9 big firms and to represent you, you have close to 50% chance of winning. I don't know about you folks, but that sounds like justice is for sale when it's supposed to be justice for all. Right now, justice is not for all. It's about your socioeconomic status. It's about your gender identity. It's about your ethnicity, from the lower court to the highest court. And that's what we've seen in the latest rulings. And that's the problem with our Texas Supreme Court.
So Kathy, I know one of the things that you said is vote up the ballot as opposed to vote down the ballot. What do you mean by that? Oops, did we lose you again? Okay, I see you. I know she's on the road and the connection's sometimes difficult.
Yeah,
Okay.
so all of our candidates are driving and campaigning this last weekend, so.
Okay, I can see you, Kathy, but I can't quite hear you. Can you speak up a little louder? I don't know.
And so maybe Gordon, you can sort of say a few words about Kathy as far as we know about her, since
okay.
yeah.
Well, so let me add a few things. I've known Kathy for many years. She's a graduate of South Texas College of Law here in Houston. She's been practicing for over 20 years. She's does a lot of cases in court. She's been a very difficult, very tough litigator. So I just thank her for her persistence and her willingness to serve. I know we have our next candidate ready to go. So let's go to the Honorable Tina Clinton, okay?
Thank you so much.
Good evening to you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much to the AAPI community of Harris County, as well as Fort Bend, for being here. My name is Tina Clinton, and I am your Democratic nominee for the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, Place 4. Kathy is my counterpart. So the Court of Criminal Appeals is the highest criminal court in the state of Texas. Texas is one of 2 states that has a bifurcated high court. So the Court of Criminal Appeals hears nothing but criminal adult cases, and the Supreme Court hears everything else. This is the court that takes direct appeals from death penalty cases straight from the trial courts. Everything else it takes on a discretionary basis, meaning that they can choose to hear an appeal or they can deny it from the intermediary courts. I'm a 25-year veteran in criminal law. I started out as a prosecutor. I became a defense attorney at the state and federal level. And then I started my judicial career. I was a municipal court judge in multiple cities. I became a county criminal court judge, and now I am a state felony criminal district court judge. I'm a 3-term elected Democrat in the Dallas County area. It is my honor to serve the citizens in this capacity. But the reason why I decided to run in 2020 is because truly Texans do deserve better in this high court. I'm going to give you just a couple of ideas to give you a reason why I think that Texans deserve better. This is the same high court that when an attorney slept through large chunks of a felony case, that case was not deemed to be inefficient assistance of counsel. The court, the CCA, upheld it, saying that he did not sleep through, in their opinion, vital parts of the trial. This is the same court who refused to take a writ on a death penalty case because it was a couple minutes after 5. And the remark was, we closed at 5 o'clock, even though someone was on the gurney slotted for the death penalty. This is a court that has been overturned by the United States Supreme Court multiple times for not following constitutional laws on intellectual disability and the death penalty. In fact, in the last case, the Supreme Court themselves had to make the fact finding that the individual, Bobby Moore, was intellectually disabled after giving the Court of Criminal Appeals 2 times to fix their error. And yet when they didn't, the Supreme Court took it into their own hands. When I say that I believe that Texans deserve better, there is also a big issue of actual innocence in Texas. Let me just frame it just a little bit so that we can all understand. I know that many of you have heard of Frances Choi. She is a young woman up in Massachusetts who was convicted when she was 17 for murdering her parents in a fire, an arson. 17 years later, half of her life has been incarcerated. She has been freed because they believe that there were issues in the trial as well as with the prosecutor's office. We call these cases exonerations or sometimes actual innocence cases. In the United States, since 1989 alone, there has been 2,673 people that have been exonerated. For a total of, these people spent a total of 23,950 years incarcerated for crimes they did not commit. Texas is the #1 state for exonerations currently. We have 435 just from 1994. My opponent philosophically does not believe in actual innocence. He thinks that once you have been convicted, that you can never really truly prove your innocence, morally or factually. And the issue with that is, we believe in science. We understand what a exoneration is. We understand that there is such a thing as junk science. The world at once thought that the world was flat. We no longer believe that. That would be junk science. These things have happened, and my opponent doesn't believe that the truth in a courtroom should reign, whether that truth sometimes does not appear 20, 30, even 40 years later. But ultimately, the question for voters is this: if you don't believe that the truth, even 23, 30 years later, should be listened to, sought for, and fought for, then what truly is justice and fairness in a courtroom? What does justice and fairness mean without a pursuit of the truth? It's time that Texans deserve better. It's time that Texans demanded better. It's time that you voted for Democrats to give balance and fairness to these courts. Thank you.
No, that's excellent. And you've done a wonderful job. I just have one question for you. You mentioned in your materials that you have taken an active role in bail reform. That's been a big issue in Harris County. What could you, as a judge on the Court of Criminal Appeals, do to help with bail reform where people are poor and cannot afford to post bond?
So Republicans sometimes will put up this roadblock and say, you know what, judges aren't supposed to be legislators. In fact, we just want them to read the law and just do that. And here's the interesting thing, that if you actually know how the justice system works, there are multiple arms of the judiciary that are its legislative arms. So there is something called the Texas Judicial Council. It is a statutory council that is made up of 22 judges, and they are intended to give recommendations to the legislature for ways that the laws need to be updated, fixed, corrected to make sure that the law works coherently. For example, this time, this organization, this Judicial Council has actually recommended that civics education be strengthened in education. Civics education, that's how far out that they can talk about, not just about bail reform, right? Bail reform clearly is within the knowledge of the judiciary and what we can understand and say to the legislators, we need some help with this topic. When I was a judge, I was already on the bench in 2016, before Harris County got sued. I went down to the legislature and I testified in front of the Senate Subcommittee on Criminal Justice and Senator Whitmire. And I told him that we need help with pretrial and bond, and that conversation with that committee, not just Senator Whitmire, but the entire committee, didn't go very far until 2 weeks later when Harris County got sued. And then we've tried as a legislative body in Texas twice to pass bail reform, and it hasn't happened. The judges on the highest benches have a means of being able to say why this is so necessary and to make that understanding clear. Judge Hecht has done it from the Supreme Court, and yet the highest criminal court in the state of Texas, 9 judges, Republican, and they have been as silent as mice. In fact, mice are louder. That lets you know that something can be done, and that position and the influence that you have as judges looking at the entire system of criminal justice, that there ought to be some common sense that's brought in when jurisdiction after jurisdiction is getting sued in federal court. And yet, no leadership. You can demand better, because leadership can be had and should be asked for and given.
Well, you've done an excellent job tonight of making your case. Let me just mention, you've been endorsed, even though there's an incumbent you're running against, by the Houston Chronicle, by the Dallas Morning News, by the Albuquerque, with the Amarillo News, all the newspapers in Texas. So good luck to you, Your Honor, and thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to the AAPI community for always having the support of your candidates. Thank you.
Back to you, Helen.
Okay, thank you so much. It's lovely to hear from our women leader and rising to our power. And we truly need a new leader like Kathy and Tina to represent us. So next, we're going to move to Texas State House. We have 2 representatives who have served our community for many years, and many of you probably know them. And that's Representative Jing Wu and Representative Hubert Wu. And we'll invite Rogine and to be our moderator, Eugene and Colbert.
Let me unmute. Hi, everyone. Good evening, and thank you, Helen, for your wonderful work tonight. I noticed we have over 50 participants watching us, and it's a real pleasure to be part of this. I've noticed that everyone that preceded us are people that are running either for a new office or have never run and are running for office. But my 2 folks that I'm going to be introducing have been in their positions for a while. And I'm very proud to say that we've seen them really grow and do a wonderful job in their years in the office. So we are looking at the Texas State Legislature, 2 positions that are in Harris County. I would like to invite Jing Wu to join us. And Jean,
hi, Regine.
Are you here? There you are. Thank you. I don't need to tell you anything. You're a pro at this, but just for time's sake, you have about a minute or 2 to just say introductory remarks. We'll try to get some good questions to you, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you, Jean.
Sure. My name is Jing Wu. I'm the state representative for House District 137. I'm serving my the end of my 4th term, and I'm running for re-election for my 5th term this November. I am very proud to represent one of the absolute most diverse communities in the entire United States, with people from all over the world, a immigrant and refugee heavy district, And I'm very proud to be here. I'm very proud to be here with my very good friend, Hubert Vo, as well.
Okay, great. So Jean, let me start by asking you, what do you see are the largest issues facing the Texas State Legislature this coming session?
Well, the absolute most important thing that we will deal with, and then a lot of people want to say the budget, budgets come and go. The absolute most important thing is redistricting. And in 2011, when the Republican-controlled House, Senate, and governor's office redistricted, they gerrymandered us to hell and back. And they cut up communities of interest. They split up Asian American communities. In fact, the DOJ had to sue because of my district, got slammed into Hubert Vo's district because they were trying to remove an Asian candidate or the possibility of another Asian candidate. They were specifically trying to prevent more Asian reps from being elected. This was actual testimony in court. And when we deal with this in the coming legislature in 2021, what we're going to look to do when Democrats take the House, have the majority in the House, when we have this opportunity, we will protect communities. We will make immigrant communities, Asian communities, have the ability to have their voice and not have their power split into tiny little pieces spread out everywhere. We want to make sure that our communities have a voice and have a powerful voice that matches what our community looks like.
How can we help in that fight, Jean? What can we do?
The absolute most important thing, and like I don't really have to tell you guys this because you're watching this, is go vote and be heard. If the Democrats have the House and we can have some process to protect our communities during this process, we can do something about it. If we don't have control of the House, then it'll be the same people who were bad actors in the past doing the same bad things. The second thing is when you go vote, when you answer your census forms, it is you raising your hand out saying, hey, I'm here, and I matter. When elected officials know that you're there and they're afraid of you, vote, because you do vote, because you care about what they do when you vote, then they might think twice about doing things to your community. They might think twice about taking advantage of your community or abusing it or splitting it up or tearing it apart. Go out there, go vote, be heard, use your power. Your power is your voice and your voice is your vote.
Thanks, Jean. In addition to redistricting, what other priorities will you take to the legislature next session?
So I think the entire nation's priority should be one thing: dealing with the coronavirus. And this is something that, unfortunately, we can no longer rely on our federal government because our president, Donald Trump, has been an absolute abject failure. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or independent or whatever you are. I don't care. You should be upset that our president, the person who is supposed to lead our country, is not doing the most basic and fundamental job that they were elected to do, and that is protect us in times of national emergency. The Asian American community of all groups understands this better than anyone else, because we can call home to our relatives, we can call back to our home countries and ask, hey, how's it going out there? And we hear from people from Taiwan, from China, from Japan, from Korea, from everywhere around Asia, from the Middle East to everything else. And they said it's under control there. They're not half the country is unemployed there. And it can be done, and it should have been done, but it wasn't done. And I think it is so important for our entire country, after we get through this election, and for our legislature, for even our local government, to rally together and to do what we need to get this virus under control, to save as many lives as possible. 213,000 people are dead right now. They didn't need to die. And we have to prevent it from climbing up to 500,000. So I see no other important issue more than the lives of our own people. We have to do this.
Thank you, Jean. I have a couple of questions from the audience regarding funding. One of them is that Texas has had one of the largest rainy day funds in the country. Can the legislature allocate funds to help the cities and counties in need due to the pandemic? Do you anticipate dipping into the rainy day fund?
Yes. In fact, I have made it I actually said publicly, we should have already tapped into the rainy day fund. The governor should have called us back into special session for this emergency so we could have used that fund to get PPE for schools, for hospitals, to help with rental assistance, to do any number of things, to save our bars and restaurants, to save our workers. We should have already done that. But because our governor is so tied to President Trump and he's trying to follow this act of nothing's wrong, everything's fine, we don't need to do anything, that we're now stuck in this position of by the time we get into the legislature in 2021, it may be too late. It may be too late. And we shouldn't be in this position. So I think as long as Democrats are in control of the House, this will be a priority. I guarantee it. So let me repeat that for people who didn't understand. If you want the Texas legislature to tap into our about $15 billion rainy day fund and use that money to help Texans, to help your local government, to help your schools, to help your local businesses get through this pandemic, you need Democrats to take control of the House. Because time and time again, Republicans have shown that they either don't care or are unwilling to do what they need to do.
Thank you, Jean. One last question from me. I know can everyone hear me? I'm sorry, my screen is kind of frozen. But anyway, one of the main decisions you all will be making at this legislative session is a Speaker of the House, I believe. What would you look for in a Speaker of the House?
Frankly, you know, as a Democrat, we've been out in the desert for so long. I actually have not given this a lot of thought because we're mostly focused on winning this election and to flipping the House. But here's you know, the basic answer is the one that I think every normal person should give. You want someone who's going to listen to other people and rule by consensus. And that is something really important because the Speaker of the House isn't elected by the people, they're elected by the membership. And if you don't listen to what your members are saying, you don't listen to the way things are going, then things go bad really quickly. And this is what we want. I think this is what everyone should want because we're right now watching a president and frankly a governor in this state who just does whatever they want. And who doesn't listen to other people, who doesn't listen to the expert, who doesn't listen to advice from people who have been doing this for a long time, and just simply does whatever the hell they want. And look at where it's gotten us. Look at the mess we're in now.
Okay. Jean, do you have any other comments that maybe we didn't cover tonight? I'm sure there are plenty, but any other points that you'd like to make?
How much time I got? How many times?
I'll give you another minute.
Okay, all right, fine. Come on, Rogine. So here it is. You know, most of y'all who are watching know me, and I know Rogine, you know me. Gordon knows me, and everyone else. I'm a huge advocate for the Asian American community because we have been stepped on and overlooked and used and abused for so long. I'm tired of it. Asian Americans, our power is growing exponentially. Our population that is able to vote has doubled in the last 20 years, more than doubled. We need to use that power. And we need to use that power to protect our own community. We're not just voting this next election cycle, we're voting for our lives. The Trump administration has shown that they do not give two flips about whether or not our community survives. And the bigots, the racists have come up after us. The number of hate crimes and incidents have skyrocketed. our families are in danger. And we need a president who will heal this country and put the racist and bigots away and come fight for our community and put Asian Americans at the top positions in the government. We want to be, we want to be respected, then we have to be on the team that actually respects us. And that's why I want everyone to go out and vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Vote for a change, vote for people who care about this country and care about our community and not just care about themselves.
Very good. Thank you, Gene, so much. We appreciate your service and we wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you.
Again, my screen is frozen, but I hope Representative Vo is out there.
Yes,
Hubert,
hi,
are
Roisin,
you with
how are
us?
you?
Oh, good. I hear. Thank you. Good evening. Hubert, the same thing. We're going to give you a couple of minutes to make some introductory remarks, and then we'll hopefully have some questions for you.
Thank you, Roisin, and thank you everybody for your involvement in the community. And tell you it has been a great honor to represent ALIF in the Texas House of Representatives. And I currently serve on the Insurance Committee, and I'm a Vice Chair of Pensions, Investment, and Financial Services Committee. My priorities always have been public education, affordable health care, and economic development. Over the years, I have worked with the ALIF ISD, Houston Community College, and area employers to provide workforce training that match the actual jobs available. And last session, I worked with members of both parties to pass bills that I authored to help to protect consumers. And one of those bills provide a process to ensure that the Texas Department of Motor Vehicle has the information necessary to place a notation on the title of vehicles damaged by floods. This will provide a warning for future buyers. Another of my bills require the insurance commissioner to examine the quality of and adequacy of the networks used by PPO health plans. Other people have tried unsuccessfully several times to put PPO under scrutiny. And I'm so proud that I was able to accomplish that last year. And next session, I know that the difficult problems caused by the pandemic and it's going to be the economic downturn. And we have to get serious about reducing healthcare costs by expanding Medicaid coverage so we can get back millions of dollars that our state pays in taxes to Washington every year and would cover a lot of working people. The state budget next session is going to be very tight, but we cannot cut public education. Our schools have a priority next session. And because of my support of education, I have the endorsement of the state teachers organizations. And with that, I stop right here, Roisin. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hubert. You mentioned education, and we did have a question earlier, and it applies to you as well, is with the additional expenses of education, you know, with our children having to study remotely, you know, just a lot of where are we going to find the extra money for education?
We have to set priorities, Roisin. Like 5 years ago, education, we cut education about $5 billion in public education. And as of today, we have not restored that money back yet. And make sure that in the old days, like almost 15, 20 years ago, public education, the local community only, the equation is 60-40, meaning that 20 years ago, the local community only put about 40% of its share into public education, and the state put in 60%. But as of today, it's a reverse. The local community has to put in 60%, and the state only put in 40% of the money for public education. And we have to work hard and make sure we need to restore that slowly over the years, Roisin. And I know it's been a challenge because of the pandemic coming this year, and next year the budget is going to be very tight. We have a deficit so far as of today of about $4.6 billion, and that's going to hurt education, healthcare, and public safety. But we will have to do our best to balance it and to struggle and juggle and where should we put our money at. So,
Hubert, do you see any other new sources of funding or revenue coming in? Because there's just so much balancing you can do.
That's correct, Roisin. It's going to be tough, especially the focus next year is not going to be our budget, but also the focus of our session coming up next year is going to be redistricting also. And it's happening every 10 years. And it's going to be a fight. And I believe that this coming next year, we will end up with at least 1 or 2 special sessions to deal with the budget and to deal with redistricting. So it's going to be a fight. And hopefully, if our people come out and vote from top to bottom, we will have, hopefully we can turn the House blue again. And so it's going to help us to navigate better next session in terms of budget and redistricting, Roisin.
Okay, and I have to apologize, my screen and sound froze a couple of times. It was mentioned by Representative Wu that he would look into using the rainy day fund. How do you feel about that?
I agree with Representative Wu. We have a healthy budget in our rainy day funds. We have to use it, and we will call on and request the governor to go ahead and dip into the rainy day funds to use as an emergency funds because of the situation of this pandemic has caused, and the pandemic has hurt a lot of small businesses also.
Okay. All right. I don't have advantage of seeing any questions in the chat box. Can someone help me? Is there a question I might have missed? Helen or Gordon, can you check?
Yes, I know that healthcare is a big concern to Hubert. He mentioned that, and I know that the Hope Clinic is right now undergoing a capital campaign. I don't know if there's anything the state can do to help as far as providing some types of funds as far as healthcare for people in your district, Hubert.
Thank you for your question, Gordon. It has been many sessions that we Democrats are very serious about reducing the healthcare cost by expanding the Medicaid coverage so we can get back millions of dollars that our state pays in taxes to Washington every year. And if we get that portion back, it would cover a lot of things for our working people, and it's going to help us in terms of Medicaid. So next session, we will work hard to fight to make sure Medicaid, we get our portion of Medicaid back to our state of Texas. If not, that money is going to go to somewhere else, to other states. And thank you very much for reminding us. So we need to remember to do that next session.
Very good. Do you want to close in a minute with a minute or so? Just any other comments you want to make to the audience?
You know, I know that next session, the budget is going to be very tight. We cannot, there's 3 areas that we cannot cut: public education, then healthcare, and public safety. Those are the 3 areas that we have to be careful to juggle our budget and to make sure that we balance our budget and we have enough to cover those 3 areas, Roisin.
Very good. Well, Representative Vo, we thank you so much for your service and also for the hard work that you do for us every day. Good luck, and we'll let you go now.
Well, thank you very much, Roisin, and thank you everybody for all your hard work and your sacrifice and your dedication to help our community. Thank you all.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So with that, thank you so much for 2 of our representatives who really have worked so hard over years for our community. and you all have heard their stories and experiences. Next, we're going to move on actually to Rebecca Ann. She is actually filling the spot for our Vice President candidate, Kamala Harris. I guess Kamala Harris does not need introduction. And so we'll invite Rebecca Ann to speak of a few words about her experience, about her platform and her campaign.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to Helen and Rogine for having me. I am obviously not Kamala Harris, but my name is Rebecca. I'm a Houston native. I am a daughter of Chinese immigrants from Vietnam, and I've been a lifelong advocate for the AAPI community in all sectors, and most recently politics. I am currently the Deputy Digital Organizing Director of Communities at the Texas Democratic Party, and for Biden for president here in Texas, but I am here just as a daughter of Houston and of Chinese immigrants. And the views I expressed tonight are mostly my own. And if you have any more specific policy questions, I would recommend you head to joebiden.com. Every question you could possibly have, the answers are very detailed and listed all over his website under Joe's Vision. With that being said, like I said at the beginning, I'm a daughter of Chinese immigrants from Vietnam who was born in Houston, grew up in Sugar Land. And as I've gotten older, I've realized what a truly special city Houston is and what a privilege it was to grow up here and how much the city has shaped my values. In Houston, I attended great public schools with students whose families had hailed all over the world. I ate amazing fusion food on Bel Air Boulevard, from Viet Cajun to Korean barbecue tacos and like Sunday dim sum with my family, my entire extended family every weekend. In elementary school, I was taught that America was a melting pot, and I can safely say that Houston truly is a melting pot. The AAPI community here in Houston has raised me and shaped me into the person that I am today. So I am very thankful and very honored to be here talking to the AAPI community and leaders, and I'm completely thrilled that Texas is on the edge of turning blue and that our AAPI community will be the deciding vote in determining whether or not Texas flips blue and whether or not Joe Biden wins the election this November. I am beyond excited that Senator Harris is at the top of the ticket. I started following her career when she became a US Senator in 2016. She has constantly put the priorities of women and women of color and communities of color into all of her legislation. And when she was running for president during the primary, she was the first candidate to release a plan for AAPI Americans. And to my surprise, she did a campaign event with senior Chinese women back in San Francisco. She posted it in her Instagram story, so it's not there anymore, but I was like, oh my God, there's a presidential candidate hosting a political event with people who look like my grandma. This is like so meaningful to me. On the campaign trail, she talked a lot about how her mother was a tiny immigrant woman who was dismissed because of her height and her accent. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's a presidential candidate who knows what it's like to have an immigrant mom who is dismissed because of her height and because of her accent. And when she was chosen as vice president, I was just like, oh my God, there's gonna be a candidate at the top of the ticket who gets me, my community, and our experiences. So I hope everyone here is just as excited to vote for Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket as I am. And y'all know what's at stake in this election. Texas is the biggest battleground state. There are nearly 800,000 Asian American voters in Texas, and our vote will be the margin of victory to turn Texas blue. We are the fastest growing demographic in the state. In 2018, Beto only lost by 2.6 points, and the South Asian community and Chinese and Vietnamese community in Houston combined is more than the margin of loss for Beto in 2018. So if we turn out, we can finally assert our political power, not just in the state, but in this country. Every time I talk about Houston and growing up here, I talk about how vibrant our AAPI community is, how our food is amazing. It's truly amazing. I eat so much food every time I come back to see my family. I like make many, many stops all along Bel Air Boulevard. It's like, I gotta eat here, I gotta eat here, I gotta eat here. It's been the focus of TV shows. It's brought in millions for the city economically and for like tourism. And now like we've established our claim as an economic powerhouse in Houston and in the state of Texas. And now we should assert our political power as well. This is what I truly believe. This is why I was excited to be invited back to turn Texas blue. And I hope you guys will join me in voting for Joe and Kamala and the Democrats up and down the ticket. And my goodness, I'm so excited. There are so many AAPI candidates on the ballot this year in Texas. It is so exciting to see the people who are stepping up to run and lead this country actually, and the state, look like the people of this country and this state. Just a few things I was passed along to me to share with y'all from Biden and Harris HQ. Vice President Biden and Senator Harris know the Asian American community is the core chapter of the American story. Our country's ability to draw hardworking people from every culture and every nation has always made us stronger. Joe has turned bold, progressive ideas into tangible results for the AAPI community as Vice President and Senator. Joe and Kamala are committed to ensuring that every member of the AAPI community is treated with dignity, no matter their race or ethnicity, and has a fair shot at the American dream. As President and Vice President, Biden and Harris will elevate AAPI voices and increase AAPI representation in government. As Senator, I noticed that the first round of endorsements she rolled out before she was the VP candidate included many women of color and AAPI representatives from all over the country. The Biden-Harris administration will also protect and build on the Affordable Care Act to ensure that AAPIs who often face language and cultural barriers have access to healthcare. They will also invest in students and educators and ensure that AAPI parents and children have access to the resources and support they need for success. They'll counter the rise in hate crimes, including providing resources and working with local leaders to combat bullying directed at the AAPI community, and secure our values as a nation of immigrants by immediately working with Congress to pass legislative immigration reform that modernizes our system with a priority on keeping families together. And they also want to spark entrepreneurship and small business growth in the AAPI community. This is the, that they even have a platform for the AAPI community at all is the first I'd ever seen in my lifetime. And just yesterday, I don't know if any of y'all have seen it yet, but they released a new campaign ad targeted specifically at the AAPI community. So like our community is a priority in a Biden-Harris administration, and our AAPI community in Houston specifically can change the course of not just the state of Texas, but our entire country. So I hope y'all will join me in calling all your aunties and chitties and lolas and nai-nais and turn out everyone in our community to vote blue up and down the ticket this November.
Okay, thank you so much. I know you're all busy. As I said, this is the last weekend before earlier voting start on Tuesday, and it's going to be a very hectic time for every campaign. So I think we may have some questions from audience, but I remember hearing the comments and concerns of some of the Asian American community members. And so if you can just address that briefly, maybe if you can pass the questions back to the campaign, if they can answer that.
Yeah.
I know you're not really an official spokeswoman for them, but at least through you, we can communicate back to the campaign. One of the questions people ask is Kamala Harris is often seen as a African-American lady rather than, for AAPIs. So how, through your interaction with them, how do you feel about this? How does she represent the AAPI community as equally well, actually, for all people?
Well, to be honest, in America, when people see Senator Harris, they see a Black woman and not like her AAPI side. That's what they see first. And that's why then that's her experience of America. So she talks about being a Black woman a lot when she's on the campaign trail and in public spaces. But she was also raised by an Indian mom. So she shares our values. She knows the food. She knows the culture. And she does, like I've told you earlier, put our experiences at the forefront and values AAPI representation all over government. And like I said, she had an event with Chinese grandmas in San Francisco. Like our community matters to her for sure.
Rebecca, can I ask a real easy question?
Sure.
Where do you get yard signs or information about the campaign to pass out to others?
If you download the Vote Joe app, you can use it to, I manage that for Texas. I will put up-to-date information about who's on your ballot, where to find merch. I'm putting a yard sign map up there. I believe all the county party offices have yard signs at this moment, but because there's so much excitement for the Biden-Harris ticket, they're a little bit backlogged right now. But our county parties are printing some.
Okay, that's great. And related to the first question I have is sometimes we, even within the API community, people probably see her more from India rather than representing other sections of our whole community, right? So how does she address that sort of like the balance, have our community connected and united together, especially we're so divided, right? Not only within our own group, but also among different segments. So that's really a concern, right, for many of us.
Like, that's a concern for me too. I've seen it not just in Houston, but where I am now in New York City and all over the country. They are focused on bringing all our different communities together because fighting COVID, recovering from the economy requires everyone putting our differences aside and working together to put this country on a path to recovery and building back better.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're joining us from New York City, so good luck over there. And
my heart's still in Houston.
Yes, as you said, you're a daughter of Houston. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Good luck on the campaign. Yeah, all right. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our last section of the candidates, and that will be our candidates on the county level. And this will be for Fort Bend, which has such a large Asian American community, you all know. So I'm inviting Kyo Imam to be the moderator for this section.
Thank you, Helen. And yes, like you said, it is an honor to represent Fort Bend County, as you mentioned, one of the most, if not the most diverse county in the nation. Most, if not all, organizations here are either nonpartisan or bipartisan. And just like that, we are recognizing and giving a platform to all our API candidates, regardless of what party platform that they are running at. So in Fort Bend County, actually, we're going to start with the state representative positions. Helen, I hope that's okay, right? And with that, I'm going to actually invite Mr. Jatan, JC Jatan, to go ahead and thank you, JC, for your video, and then hopefully you'll be able to unmute too. There we go. So the way we're going to do this, Mr. Jatan, is I'm going to give you a few minutes to introduce yourself. Please make sure you also explain HD 26 geographical area. Also, if you can comment on the API population in the district, and then just kind of go ahead and speak about your platform, and then obviously take about 3 or 4 minutes, because then we'll have a few questions for you, just like we've had for all the candidates. So if that's okay with you, Mr. Jatan, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate it. It's good to see you, Q. And it's good to be with everyone else. My name is JC Jatan. I'm running for state representative for House District 26. That's primarily the Sugar Land and Richmond areas, and some surrounding areas here in Fort Bend County, kind of in the middle section of Fort Bend County. There's a little bit about me real quick. I'm a 7th generation Texan on my dad's side, and so I have deep Texas roots. Yep, my parents met when my dad was serving in the Army in South Korea, and so I'm also the son of an immigrant. She was South Korean. And my wife is full Chinese American. Her parents, her dad actually fled from China, swam across to Hong Kong, and spent the years to get to the United States, become a citizen, and bring the rest of his family over. And so the immigrant story is deeply ingrained in our family, and the importance of the American dream is very important to us. I'm a small business owner, family man, and so like you, I have some of the core things that are really important to us. So I want to make sure our communities are safe. I want to make sure that our law enforcement has the tools and resources they need to keep our communities safe. I believe in certain reforms, and this would include making sure that our law enforcement looks more like the communities they serve, that they all have body cameras, and that they all have the proper de-escalation training. In addition to that, I also believe in protecting the American dream. I believe this includes ensuring that we are we have a good public education system so that our children have the best opportunity to succeed. This is deeply ingrained in the American dream, is making sure that our children have a bright future with great opportunities. In addition to that, you know, property taxes is one of those things that here in Fort Bend County we really struggle with, and I believe in finding ways to make sure that is more predictable and transparent. And in doing that, there's certain solutions that have been looked at. You know, I think one of the most interesting ones is, you know, freezing the property tax valuation for your homestead, so that when you purchase your home, you know what your home is worth, and when your property taxes are given to you, it is based on that value. And so when your property taxes go up, that's because your property tax rate went up based on those governing bodies, and it is more predictable. You know, nobody should be taxed out of their home due to property taxes rising faster than they can handle. House District 26, so Sugar Land is a very diverse city, and I believe about 30% of the district is AAPI, and so it's a diverse district. I enjoy meeting with all the different communities within Fort Bend County, especially within House District 26. We spent extensive time meeting with the different communities, going to the different mosques and temples and mandors, and it's a big part of our campaign to make sure that we're bringing everyone to the table and having these conversations to make sure that we're representing everyone in House District 26 well. And so I think that covers everything that in my intro there.
No, thank you so much. It does actually, we appreciate that. So let me go ahead and get started with a couple of questions that we had. And again, folks, I encourage you to ask questions through the Q&A or the chat sessions we have available in the Zoom session as well. So the first one, Mr. Jatan, I'm sure you're not going to be surprised to hear this, but as you know, for API community, education for our children is paramount. And we hear so much about this. I'm going to use the term openly, candidly, friction between currently our boards, and I'm not talking about just Fort Bend ISD, but a few others, and the state funding when it comes to education. And this back and forth, and then that affecting some of the areas you mentioned, which was our property taxes and so forth. I'd just like to take your opinion on what can the state of Texas do in order to make sure that when it comes to education, our children are not left behind.
No, that's a really good question. I've seen the friction, I've heard the friction on both sides, and you know, I tend to believe in local control, and so I believe that our school boards that are elected locally know best what's going on in their district. The funding formula is extremely complex. It's probably more complex, much more complex than it needs to be, and I think that's one of the biggest solutions that we got to find is how are we going to properly calculate that, and then how are we going to get the state to cover more of it? Because you know, our state constitution says we're going to have this. The courts have said that the state needs to pay for this. We got to find ways to pull more of those of the school funding back to the state side and get it off the backs of property owners. And so these are all things that we're going to have to tackle. You know, I'd like to tackle as much of it possible during this next session, but it's going to take us several sessions, I believe, to get us to where we need to go to make sure that we're properly funding everything more at the state level and ensuring that our local school boards have the authority and leeway they need to best educate their school districts.
Got it. Thank you. I'm going to just kind of do a follow-up to that question because, again, it's such an important topic and issue for the API community. Do you feel at this point, or are you in a position to comment on the amount or the level of funding that is coming from the state to the district? And let's be more specific, since Fort Bend County is, you know, your constituents. So let's say a district like Fort Bend ISD or Katy ISD or Lamar Consolidated and so forth. Do you think that the state is currently funding our school systems adequately?
No, I think everybody would be in agreement that the state needs to take on more. And, you know, I think there were attempts made in the last legislative session to get the state to take on more. We are going to have different budgetary struggles this next time around, but I believe that best case scenario, if based on the scenario that we were looking at this last session, I think both sides were wanting to come into this next session with the intentions of the state taking on more of those expenditures and making sure that we're funding our public education. But budgets change, revenues have definitely changed that scenario. And so I can't tell you what's going to happen this next session, but I can tell you that I believe that the majority of our legislators were going into this next session, wanting to go into this next session, raising school funding.
Well, that's good to hear. So about 3 minutes or so left. I want to make sure I'll give you some closing comments time, but let me ask you a quick question. And again, this is to get your opinion. I think all of AAPI community wants to put politics aside when it comes to tackling this pandemic and this challenge we have in front of us. And unfortunately, politics has sucked up all the attention and instead of tackling the challenge. My question is, at the state level, do you think we are doing enough to tackle this pandemic challenge that we have? And if you think that there are opportunities to focus on, what would be a couple from your perspective?
I think from the beginning of this pandemic, it's been one of those very difficult things to navigate through, and primarily because even our state leaders, this is the first pandemic that we've had to go through and deal with. And so I believe that the state level, based on the information they've had throughout this scenario, and if you kind of go back to those points when we had what information we had, I think that the state made good decisions. I think that at this point with the mask ruling, I'm generally in favor of it. I like the idea of local control. I like the idea of the counties and municipalities having more control over these things, with certain restrictions, of course, just like we're talking about restrictions on the state level. But I think that you have to kind of take this in a region by region and a smaller area focus. And so I think the mask rule has shown that it's been that it's worked. We're seeing the lines going trending downwards, and so overall, I think it's fine. I think this next legislative session, there's going to be a lot of discussion about what authority the state level has, what authority the counties and municipalities have, and I think that after this year, we're gonna have some good ground rules for how we do this in the future.
Thank you again, Mr. Jatan. At this point, I'm going to give you about a minute or two to go ahead and make any closing comments or any thing that you want us to be aware of.
Sure. So again, my name is JC Jatan, running for State Representative for House District 26, primarily covers the Sugar Land and Richmond areas. If you're anywhere in the area, I'd love to meet you. My website is jcjatan.com. It's I'd love to connect and answer any questions you may have and earn your vote. And so again, early voting starts Tuesday, so we're almost there. And so thank you, everyone.
Thank you again for your time, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Helen, I believe that Mr. Verpen was unable to join. Can you just confirm that, please?
Yes, that's correct. I have not seen him on the panelists, and I did remind him about this. So every candidate is so busy this weekend, and I really appreciate everyone's time to be with us. So maybe we can move on to our next candidate.
We sure can. Thank you for confirming that, Helen. I have also had the pleasure of introducing Mr. Nabil Shaikh. Mr. Shaikh is the candidate for Fort Bend County Precinct 4 Constable. Somebody made a comment last night in a political meet and greet that the lower you go on your ballot, the more it's going to impact your life in the community. So with that in mind, Mr. Shaikh, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and unmute yourself. Please go ahead and introduce yourself. Please do explain a little bit as far as what the Precinct 4 is. As I mentioned earlier, do tell us about the AAPI population segment in your precinct. And then we'll have a few questions, just like for all the candidates. So over to you, Mr. Shaikh.
All right, thank you. Hi, everybody. Hi, Q. And I've seen Helen and Cecil and Mr. Gordon Kwan and Nishan Bhai, Ni Hao, Ciao, Assalamu Alaikum, Yali Madat, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal. My name is Nabil Shaikh. I'm running to be your Fort Bend County Precinct 4 Constable. Just a little bit about my experience. I've been a police officer since 2014. I've been a police sergeant. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I hold an advanced police officer's license with the Texas Commission of Law Enforcement, and I have over 5,400 training and education hours with the Texas Commission of Law Enforcement. I've won the 2017 Community Service of the Year Award. I hold I've also won the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Association Trilogy Award. I'm a field training officer, a police instructor. So that's just a little bit about my experience. I've lived in Fort Bend County since 2005. I grew up in the Alief area, moved to Fort Bend, graduated from George Bush High School, go Broncos. Now, some of our goals. So we have to have a 21st century solution for a 20th century problem. And that is why I plan to implement the 21st century police model that President Barack Obama signed into order back in 2015. Now, some of the things that we are going to do, and I'll explain what the the 21st century police model is. And so we're going to have mandatory body cameras for all of our deputies. We're also going to implement a citizens review board for policy changes, use of force, and complaints. We're going to diversify our command staff to reflect the diversity of our community. We're going to implement and improve community-oriented policing, improve officer training and officer education and wellness. We're going to combat human trafficking and improve our traffic mobility and safety. And we're also going to expand the reserve deputy program. Living in Precinct 4 pretty much, then I'll say some other things. So Precinct 4 is mainly the city of Sugar Land, the city limits. There are a couple of areas that are excluded like Greatwood and River Park West, Greatwood, River Park West, and there's a couple of other areas in Sugar Land that we don't have. And then we have parts of Richmond. So we have your Long Meadow Farms, your Harvest Green, your Eliana, Riverview, Waterside Estates, to your Orchard Lake. So pretty much think where the Gallery Furniture is on 99 and head south. And then we have parts of Missouri City, your Riverstone, your Brightwater, your Lake Olympia, and parts of Quail Valley. So that's pretty much all of Precinct 4. The AAPI community actually is about 25 to 30% of Precinct 4. So they are very important to Precinct 4. And as important as they are, in the city of Sugar Land, you are 8 times more likely to be racially profiled and stopped, given a ticket, or arrested if you are from the AAPI community or an African American. So that needs to change. So again, my name is Nabil Shaikh. I'm running to be your Fort Bend County Precinct 4 Constables. I'm ready for some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shaikh. That is pretty, it's an eye-popping statistic that you shared with us. Question that had been turned in actually even before this session had started was for the AAPI community, and especially for people who are watching this live or the recording, can you just take a minute to explain the difference between a constable and a sheriff's role in the county? And as well as if you can touch upon, especially because you have such a big incorporated area in Precinct 4, such as the city of Sugar Land, how does a constable Precinct 4 will interact with the city of Sugar Land? And again, I'm asking this for a lot of AAPI community to be aware of the role of a constable.
Sure. So the constable, a lot of people don't know, the constable was the first law enforcement agency ever established in the state of Texas. But the roles of a constable by Texas statute is mainly your civil process, your bailiffs for your courts, and your Class C misdemeanor warrants. The sheriff, their actual main job is your jail. Over time, things have changed where your constables and your sheriffs actually go out and patrol. We do everything that the sheriff's office does. But currently in Fort Bend Precinct 4, They're not really taking report calls. They can do a whole lot more. I'll just put it that way. And that's something that I plan to do. And, working with, your city of Sugar Land, we have a lot of contracts that are within Precinct 4. So the contract deputy program, what that is let's say a MUD district or an HOA, they want dedicated police officers to patrol and provide extra police presence or security for that particular MUD district or neighborhood. So they would hire the constable's agency, fully licensed, certified police officers, and they go out like places like Sweetwater and New Territory, Riverstone, Woodbridge. Those are some places that the Precinct 4 Constable's Office currently does have. We plan on expanding our contract deputy program. So you have to work within your city officials and your neighborhoods, your HOAs, your community members, and the county as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Shaikh. The other question I have here is, and this is again something that I think people want your opinion on. Recently, there has been a lot of talk and coverage in the media about the President of the United States perhaps creating a perception or even the fear in the suburban areas about crime and increased vulnerability of suburbs to crime. My question is, as a constable and as a constable of a precinct that is so AAPI population heavy, what are some of the things, I think you mentioned already about the Citizens Committee, what are some of the steps that you will take as a constable to not only engage the community as somebody who is just receiving, but being active participants in policy, transparency, and accountability?
Sure. So I think, we have a lot of social unrest that's going around our country right now. And I'll start off by saying I'm totally against defunding the police. I think, I have a family and I have two beautiful little girls. I have a beautiful wife, and I'm pretty sure all of our audience, they have kids and families that they would want to protect. So as your constable, your law enforcement agencies are there to serve and protect you. Unfortunately, the constable's agency is heavily underfunded. And one of the things that we plan to do is to expand our reserve deputy program. Now, reserve deputies are fully licensed police officers, and we commission them, and they work, they basically volunteer their time, but they are certified fully police officers. And so what we would do, our community-oriented policing model that we do have, it's not just about attending events and let's say you have a national night out, because that's a year-round thing. It's actually about getting out there and knowing your community members, the community members knowing the constable deputies on a first name or, by name basis, where they feel comfortable, hey, we want to speak to so-and-so deputy. Them getting out there and, playing basketball, playing football with the kids, taking the time out and going to the schools and interacting with the children over there, going to the many, many religious establishments in Fort Bend County and Precinct 4. So, I'm a proud son of immigrant parents. My parents immigrated here from Pakistan, and I'm a proud Muslim. And I attend Madhya Masjid. Madhya Masjid is, just one of the places that pays for police officers to be there. And they pay approximately $60,000 a year. In my opinion, that is a lot of money that is being wasted. What we plan to do is utilize our reserve deputies to go out there and provide the same service to the mosques, but not just, Madhya Masjid, but all religious establishments within Fort Bend County, Precinct 4. And the money that they save, they can utilize that for other programs, such as, youth programs, helping, with infrastructure, feeding the needy. There's a lot of programs and a lot of people that do need help out there. And I don't feel that our constable's agency should be profiting off of people. So, those are just a couple of things. Now, our Citizens Review Board that we do plan to implement, that Citizens Review Board will be from individuals of different ages. So we want our millennials and our different generations in there. different ethnicities, because Fort Bend County Precinct 4 is actually the most diverse precinct in Fort Bend County. So we want different ethnicities, different races, different professional backgrounds on our review board. And when we have a policy change, when we have a citizen's complaint against one of our deputies, or let's say we have a deputy that has used force on an individual, then we sit down with our board, our command staff in that board, and collectively we come up with a solution. And hey, this is what we are going to do. And I think that's just being very inclusive and being transparent. And I hope that answers your question.
You sure did. And I'm going to actually take your time of your closing comment, if you don't mind, Mr. Shaikat, because I did get another question while we were talking here. If you could just clarify how many deputies you have in Precinct 4 or can have if you haven't staffed all. And I think you've answered the second question, which was, will you do contracting of services to community associations? I guess you guys, Precinct 4 does do that today. Perhaps the question is if you will continue doing that if you get elected.
Yeah, it's a great program. Currently the current sheriff that is in office right now took away the ability for the 911 calls that go to the constables agencies in certain contracts. So let's say I'm out in, or one of our deputies is out in Riverstone or something, and a house is being burglarized, or there's a domestic disturbance that's going on down the street from where they are, they won't get that call. And if they don't get that call, as a citizen or as a victim, you don't care what agency responds to you. You just need that help at that particular time. So we're going to be fighting to help, working with the sheriff's office to have that policy to cease. And, we have to be working with all of our agencies together. We do plan on getting a couple of other contracts because they're shown to be proven. When I worked in Harris County, I actually worked within a contract, and our average response time was approximately 2 minutes. So, I mean, we provided excellent service to our community. That was the contract. What was, I'm sorry, Q, what was
the number of deputies you have in precinct?
Okay, I apologize. So the number of deputies they currently have is around 40 or so. We do plan on, I am a certified grant writer, so we do plan on searching for grant-funded programs like our human trafficking and our family violence and our mental health programs, which will add more deputies to our organization, to our office, and then we will also have our reserve deputies.
Thank you, Mr. Shaik. I'm going to let you wrap it up by just reminding people your candidacy, your position, and where you are on the ballot, and that's it.
All right, sure. Thank you. And, thank you guys for having us, or having me out here, and all of our other candidates. This election is extremely, extremely important. And we need everybody to get out there and vote from the top all the way down to your bottom. And Q, as you mentioned, the lower you go on your ballot, the more it impacts your life on an everyday basis. And it's completely true. We need your school boards and your constables and your sheriffs and your county government body. So please go out there and vote all the way down your ballot. I am qualified for this position. Early voting begins October 13th, which is Tuesday, till October 30th. There are 13 polling locations within Precinct 4 of the 30 that Fort Bend County has. And, before I let you guys go, I am a proud member of the AAPI community, as I, mentioned a little bit earlier, and I'm a proud Muslim. And, quick statistic or something that is kind of mind-boggling, I would be the first ever elected South Asian constable or sheriff ever in the United States, and the first ever Muslim. And, that's just crazy. So, let's make history together. And thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shaik. And Helen, I'm going to turn it over back to you.
Okay, thank you, Q. And also for our candidates, it's really good to hear from you, Nabil. I know you're doing such a good, important job to protect our community. And we are truly breaking history, right? We have broken so many historical records so far. And so everyone needs to get to vote. So far, we completed the candidate section, and we do have Joanne Ray from Harris County Clerk Office or the election office. And she was really honored to invite her to come because there's so much confusion going on, especially regarding the mailing ballot and the job op location, all of this going on. So if Joanne, you can speak just for a few minutes about the most urgent issues we're facing and also the most asked FAQs for us. And audience, if you have any questions about voting, this is your chance to ask questions. She does represent the Harris County only. If you have questions about Fort Bend and other counties, please call those counties' election office. They're all available on the website, the polling hours and locations and all the detailed sample ballots. But Joanne is here to answer questions for Harris County and also maybe Texas statewide issues we're facing. Thank you so much, Joanne.
Thanks for inviting me, Helen. I want to first to talk about, I want to make sure everybody's ready to vote. And if you want to look at the sample ballots, go to harrisvotes.com to check your sample ballot before you go to vote, because we have almost close to 100 competitions this year. And to check, so we don't want to waste your time. So the best way to go to harrisvotes.com to check your sample ballot and do your homework at home and bring the sample ballot with you to the voting location to save your time. And also, if you have a question about a candidate, you can go to the Vote 411 to check out each candidate to see what's there, to get to know better about them, because I know a lot of people say, I don't know who should I vote for. So that's some good resource to go to. Also, League of Women Houston, that will be a good resource as well. And also get your photo ID ready to vote. Make sure you have the acceptable voter ID with you. And this year we have a lot of new safe way to vote. And the Harris County worked very hard to make sure everybody can vote and not to be afraid of pandemic 19. So in order to vote in person, we have doubled the voting location for this election compared to other presidential elections. We have 120 early voting elections. And also on the election day, we have 800 more voting locations for the voting in person. And plus, a lot of people we don't know we have a roadside voting as well. And this year, we break the historical record with the only county in Texas have the drive-through voting and 24-hour voting. The drive-through voting is designed for all voters. You can use this option to vote inside your car. You don't have to get off your car, just like you go to McDonald's or Sonic. And we will have a 10 voting location with the option of drive-through voting. And each polling location, we will have a 10 to 30 lines for, we can serve 10 to 30 vehicles at one time, at the same time. So to avoid the crowd voting. So if you have a elderly at home or the younger kids at home, nobody to look after, you can bring them with you in the car. And you can vote in the car. If you have several people in the car eligible to vote, each of you can vote in the car at the same time as well. And we also will provide you the finger glove and sanitizer as well. And so we wanted you to be able to vote in all kinds of ways. And then we also provide one called the 1 day for the 24-hour voting is on October 29th, starting from 7 a.m. until the October 30th, 7 p.m. Okay, so and we know some people, they have a different schedule of working hour. So we want to provide the option for them to be able to vote as well. And then about the voting by mail, I want to talk about is you can also drop up your vote, the ballot by mail anytime you receive your ballot by mail, once you complete your ballot and put inside the envelope, if you don't feel comfortable to put it to the post office, you can deliver it in person. In the past, you can only deliver in person on election day. But this election, you'll be able to deliver anytime. Once you complete your ballot, you can deliver anytime. Okay, but the last day to deliver is on the election day. And then we only have one drop-off location, that's the NRG Arena, that I think is gate 9. And the only difference between the deliver your ballot by mail in person, you can only deliver by yourself, okay, in person with a photo ID. Is pretty much the same with your vote in person. The only difference, you already complete your ballot, okay? So the ballot cannot be delivered by your family member, by your friend, whatsoever. It has to be delivered by yourself. And for the location, we also have the wait features on our website. You can find out the waiting time to vote in person, and also search for the closest voting location near you. So we are hoping everybody can utilize those features on our website to save your time, to make it more convenient for you. And also I have a lot of people ask me, how do I mail it out and fill and mail it out the ballot? The only crucial thing is, once you put your ballot in your ballot envelope, then you will put the return envelope. Make sure you sign it in back of the envelope. And that signature has to be the same when you apply for your ballot by mail, okay? And also we have a tracking system on our website, which you can track down, when do we receive your ballot by mail application? When we mailed you the ballot by mail, the ballot, when we receive your ballot, is your ballot being accepted or rejected? We have all this track of the date. It's just like you track your credit card bill on the website, and you have to enter your last name and your birth date, or last 4 digits of social security number, or your driver's license number. So it's very private. So it's just like you check your credit card bill, and it has all the records. And also one thing I want to mention, a lot of people say, I forgot how I signed it on my application form. Did I put my middle name, initial, I spelled it out, or what? If that's the case, you can call our office. We can retrieve the application, you turn it in, and we scan all of that. Okay, we have the old document, so we can look at how you sign it, and we can tell you, so to make sure there's no discrepancy. But even we reject your ballot by mail, you mail it in. If we reject it, you can still go vote in person at every voting location. And one last thing I want to bring up is that you can vote every voting location. It doesn't have to be the designate your area like in the past. We changed that since last May. Okay, you can go to any voting location to vote, but you can only vote once. Okay, even if you don't feel like we send you the ballot by mail, you apply for it, but you decide you want to vote in person, that's fine. You can just bring your ballot with you to the voting location and turn in your ballot. Then you'll be able to vote again. Even you don't have the ballot with you, for some reason you lost it, you can still put a vote like provision vote, okay? So that, and once after the election day, we started to make sure we did not receive your ballot in mail, then this vote will be counted. So those are some things that we want people to make sure. But if you have any question, you're welcome to call our office or call me or email me. That's about it.
Okay, thank you so much, Joanne, and I really appreciate your staying late to answer questions. Do we have questions from audience you want to ask Joanne about voting? I'm actually hearing from people that because the reason the Governor Abbott change, right, the lawsuit going on with only one job of locations, people are very confused. So in Harris County, they can only go to NRG, right? To job
That's
out
correct.
their ballot.
That's correct. And we will have 10 drive-through voting and the 8 we will have 10 drive-through voting locations.
So can people drop off their, so let's say if they can't go to NRG for some reason by in person by themselves, because they have to be that actual person who voted, right? So can they still go to the polling location and give the mail-in ballot, surrender that there? Is that allowed?
Yes, they are allowed. Just make sure to bring your ballot with you. Like I say, even you don't have your ballot, you can just vote a provision vote.
Okay,
you can still vote, yes.
Okay, so they can still bring their mail-in ballots to the polling location and just give to the people there. Okay, that's wonderful. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. And also a lot of questions about this year. They changed the straight party voting. So so the people have to click one by one from the top to all the way to the bottom. Is that how it's going to work?
Yes, but as a matter of fact, you can skip it. If you have some competition, you don't know who to vote, you don't have to check all of them. You can skip that race and go to the next one. So it's not like a testing. You have to give answer on every question. You can skip that race. Yes, you don't have to vote every election, every race.
I think it's relevant because people just go in, to click on the presidential position and skip the rest. This is why I think we've been emphasizing to click on all of the ballot positions. Make sure you vote down ballot, like Nabil Shaikh, right? He is down ballot all the way down, but his position is so important to all of us. So I'm glad to hear that we can have all of the options available. And also, do some of this thing only applicable to Harris County? What happens if people have questions about other county? I don't know what other counties are doing. Are they doing the similar things or completely different?
I think every county they have they proceed a different way. I think Harris County we are kind of take a lead in Texas. For example, we are the only county has the Chinese ballot. And we're the one first provided the drive-through voting and 24 hours voting. We actually have 8 24 hours voting locations on October 29th.
Okay, yeah. I just saw a question pop in saying, what is the website? I assume he's or she is asking about Harris County website. That's
harrisvotes.com.
harrisvotes.com, plural, right? If you live in other counties, please Google or do an internet search. For example, if you live in Fort Bend, just search for Fort Bend election office. That will pop up the website for that county. And same thing with all of other counties. And that election office will be able to answer questions, and you can get all of the information about voting from location to hours to sample ballots. Do we have other questions for Joanne?
Yeah, I want to remind everybody the last day to apply for ballot by mail is October 23rd.
And is that a statewide or only Harris County?
Usually it's the 30 days. I think that's for all the elections.
Okay, across the state. Okay, thank you so much for reminding us. So with that, close tonight, and I really want to thank all of the participants and organizations and candidates and audience to stay with us this late. We run sort of like 20 minutes behind, but I hope we got all of these answers for you. And if you have any questions, just follow up with, again, the candidates and the election office, and we'll try to help you as much as we can. And good luck on voting. Make sure everyone come out to vote. It's such an important election for our community and for our country, in fact, for our whole world. And we hope to see you soon. And have a good night and enjoy your weekend and get ready to vote on Tuesday. And thank you everyone.